Hello everyone, this is Roy PCB, your trusted PCB partner. Today we're going to introduce a feature in KiCad that actually allows you to pour copper on all layers at the same time. Copper pour is a very important operation in PCB design. Usually you need to draw the copper pour shape on different layers and then perform the fill operation. There's a way in KiCad that can simplify this process. First, let's take a look at how a regular copper pour is done. We also mentioned this in our previous introductions. So first, you will need to click on the right side of the interface to draw a filled area, and then subsequently you can pour copper. As you may recall or remember from previous steps, there are indeed two primary methods for this process. The first and most straightforward method is to simply draw a very large rectangle. The simplest and most efficient way to do this is to draw a box that just needs to completely cover the entire PCB, ensuring full coverage and proper copper pouring. First, we need to select the copper pour layer, then choose the net for the copper pour. Usually we pour copper for GND, but sometimes if there is a high power supply in the circuit, we will do a local copper pour specifically for the power supply. Then click OK. We can keep all the other options at their default settings. Click OK, and you can now easily draw a very large and expansive area. Finally, you can also simply right-click to close the shape, making it easy to finish. Don't worry about the lines, and then press B to complete the copper pour. However, this creates a problem. The outer frame always remains, and from an aesthetic perspective, it doesn't look good. So for those who have higher standards, they will delete the outline and start over. Draw according to the PCB border. Again, carefully select the desired net and then click OK to confirm your choice. This particular method requires you to be much more precise and accurately align the various lines. All four sides need to be aligned like this. Drawing it this way takes much longer. For the last edge, you can still close it by right-clicking. Then press B to fill this net. Now this edge overlaps with the PCB border, so it doesn't look as ugly as before. There will still be a frame on the outside, and here's another issue. Since we're using a double-layer board, we have to outline both sides. If it's a multi-layer board, like a 4-layer or 6-layer board, then for a 6-layer board, at least 3 to 4 layers in the middle may need copper pour for ground, which means you have to outline it 4 times. This is very time-consuming. So let's see how to pour copper on multiple layers at the same time. Let's delete it again. In KiCad, since there's no concept of a power plane, as mentioned before, even if you label it as a power plane, it actually still treats it as the second layer. It won't automatically pour copper on the inner power layer. Well, some other EDA tools do have this feature. If you set a layer as a power plane, it will automatically pour copper on that layer using the GND net, which saves you some work since you don't have to manually pour copper on the inner layers. But for KiCad, it doesn't have this concept. Therefore, for multi-layer boards, you need to manually pour copper on all layers. For complex multi-layer boards, there may be multiple ground planes or power planes. The traditional design method requires pouring copper on each layer one by one, which means you have to draw polygons multiple times, and this can be quite time-consuming. Just like I did earlier, if you have 4 layers that need copper pour, you have to trace the outline 4 times, as I showed before, which is rather time-consuming. Now, KiCad has added a feature that allows you to select multiple layers at once when setting up copper pour. Let's take a look at how to select multiple layers at the same time. Click on copper pour again, and as before, let's trace the outline first to keep it looking neat. After left-clicking, select the net. Here, for the layers, this is a checkbox, not a single choice box, so we can select 2 layers at the same time. Now let's perform the copper pour operation and see what happens. As you can see, tracing the outline like this is quite time-consuming. The more layers you have, the more repetitive the work becomes. Close it off. Then let's press B and see what happens. Now, we are currently looking at the uppermost layer, which already has a substantial amount of copper poured onto its surface, and the corresponding bottom layer also prominently features a significant presence of copper. We can use the shortcut keys plus and minus to switch between layers and take a look. Actually, you can already see through the transparent areas that the bottom layer also has copper poured. This way I only need to trace the outline once to complete the copper pour on both the top and bottom layers. The more layers there are, the more obvious the advantage of this operation becomes. Almost all PCB design software only supports single-layer copper pour. However, KiCad has come up with a creative approach. Although this method might cause some ambiguity when setting copper pour priority rules, it does indeed improve design efficiency in most scenarios. Alright, that's all for today's content. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thank you everyone.